Welcome to Profoundly Human. I recently had the chance to sit down with Tommy Spaulding. He is an author, a speaker, the former CEO of Up With People, and the founder of Global Youth Leadership Academy. In his latest book, The Gift of Influence, Tommy explains that the average person influences 80,000 people in their lifetime. That's a stadium full of people. Each of us affects in ways positive or negative, often without realizing it. What if we paid attention to this fact? Would we live differently? Would we lead differently? Would we put down our phones and be more present with the people in front of us? Tommy Spaulding believes the answer is yes, and I agree with him. Listen, enjoy, reflect, and allow this message to transform the way you interact with people for the rest of your life. Hi, I'm Matthew Kelly. Welcome to Profoundly Human. My guest today is Tommy Spaulding. Tommy, welcome.
Great to be here, Matthew.
How are you?
I just got to speak to your team. It couldn't be better.
Yeah, it was great. It's very powerful.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. I didn't want to speak to him before because I thought I'd sweat and it wouldn't be all disheveled, but I got the Holy Spirit so riled up in my heart just to share my heart with your team. Now I'm excited about being with you.
Thank you. Thank you. So some tough questions to get started. Are you a coffee drinker?
I'm the only one that drinks decaf. And every
Decaf.
time I ask for decaf, they say, let me go brew you a cup. So you always get a fresh pot because no one drinks decaf. But in 2000, I had my last caffeine and I was jittering and said, I'm done.
Got it.
Yeah.
What was it doing to you?
It just makes me jitters. So I'm kind of clean. I like to drink water and wine and tequila. That's about it.
Water and wine and tequila.
Decaf once in a while.
There you go. What about favorite food?
I'm half Italian, or 48%. I used to say half Italian, but then you get these 23andMe, and then they give you actually a number. So I'm 48% Italian. So I love Italian food. But I spent a couple of years living in Japan.
Yeah.
And I just fell in love with Japanese food.
What is your favorite Italian dish?
Well, my mama, she cooks chicken parm that will just outrival anything. So she got the stuffed bread and baked clams, and then she does raviolis and chicken parm, Italian sausage. That's for the appetizer, and then every morning. Oh, she's the best.
What about favorite movie?
I'm a movie guy, so that's going to be hard. But we're a hockey family. My stepson Anthony plays hockey. My little one Tate plays hockey at boarding school. Our dog is Gretzky. So I just got to say Miracle. I just love that movie. Just like the 1980 Olympics, how this junior, nobody, just U.S. team takes on the giant of Soviet Union that won straight gold medals and so intimidated, and with leadership and heart. It's just, we just watch it over and over again.
It's a fantastic movie.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite scene or a favorite line?
When the coach, her Brooks, says, I'm tired of those Russians winning. This is your time and take it. And I mean, it's just like I'm like running to the screen. Get me on the ice. I'm ready to fight. It's just hockey guys have just a gift. I just dropped off Tate at boarding school in Shattuck, which is like the top hockey school in the country. They won national championships where Sidney Crosby, Nathan McKinnon, they all went there. We dropped them off, and the head coach, Tom Ward, who runs the prep team, and then the junior coach Christian, and these guys were talking about hockey, and I was crying. I was so motivated. Like, hockey guys know how to motivate, and they're so real and so authentic. I was like, sign me up. I'll go anywhere. Just amazing.
So Tate's your youngest?
He is. He's 14. And still mourning. He's 5 days into boarding school. Never seen the kid cry, ever. Even when he broke his collarbone. Kid is got full of love, doesn't cry. He's been crying this week. He misses home. But by tomorrow, or by the time this video comes out, he'll be fine. It's me I'm worried about.
Yeah, what's it like to drop your 14-year-old off to boarding school?
I mean, the only analogy I can give, Matthew, is when I was in college, I went skydiving, and I didn't want to do the tandem with you jumping somewhere. I'm going to do it. I'm jumping on that damn plane by myself, right? So I did the course where you pull the thing and the zip line and the static line, and when that plane got up there and said, "Okay, ready to jump," I just didn't want to jump. I mean, I paid the money, did the class. I'm ready to do it. But when that plane opens, something intuitively is that human body is not supposed to jump out of this plane. They had to push me out. And that's the only way I felt with dropping Tate off. I get dropped off an 18-year-old kid. When we dropped off Anthony at West Point, that was hard.
Yeah.
But he's 18, 19. But when you're 14 and you're going away, it just didn't feel right. I know he's where he needs to be, and he's going to do well there. But it was painful.
Now, when will he next come home?
Christmas.
Okay.
Yeah. Christmas.
Yeah.
But I'll see him in 5 days, 4 hours and 30 seconds. I'm going to see him.
Talk to us about childhood. What was your childhood like? Where did you grow up? What was Tommy like as a kid?
Yeah. I grew up in upstate New York. I have to be careful when I say that because the upstate people from New York say I live in the city. And then the city people say I live in upstate. I'm 25 miles north of the city in Rockland County in a little town called Suffolk, New York. My parents were school teachers. My dad taught English for 40 years. My mom didn't go to college, but when I was in high school, went back to college, got a degree, became a teacher. So they were educators. And my sister became a teacher. My aunts and uncles were all teachers. And I think I wanted to become a teacher, but the reality was school was really, really hard for me. And I struggled with dyslexia and just learning challenges, probably have ADHD, ADD, I had it all. And they didn't know what to do with kids like me back in the 70s and 80s. So they had this room called the resource room. And that's for the kids with dyslexia and autism and, all mental challenges. And that was my room, the resource room. And I hated that room, Matthew. The R word, was used a lot. And I hate that word. Where's Spaulding going? He's going to the retard room. And it just, I didn't want to be defined by that.
Yeah.
So I wasn't strong. I didn't have good grades. I wasn't very athletic. So I had to pick something I was really good at, and that was love. Anyway, I became class president, and I just really just served that school, and really found my confidence outside the classroom and loving and serving people, bringing people together. And then my senior year in college, I never thought I would ever play varsity football. I was a soccer player on the fourth team.
Yeah.
I just was terrible. But the varsity football coach, Bob Valtiti, saw a leader in me. And he pulled me in his office right before my senior year and said, we need a field goal kicker. Have you ever kicked a field goal? Ever kicked a football? I said, I don't think I've ever thrown a football, coach. And he's like, I could kick a soccer ball. It's no different. Just take 2 steps back, 2 steps over. So he gave me a bag of footballs and a kicking tee. He said, Tommy, I really need a field goal kicker. If you can figure out how to kick a field goal. We practice during summer. Come to practice and tryouts on August 10th. And you can kick 10 in a row. I'll put you on the team. Well, I failed 3 classes that year, so I had to go to summer school. So after summer school, I'd take my bag of football to summer school, and then I would just kick hundreds of them. And I got my leg strong enough. Even today, if I took my pants off, which I won't, my right leg is bigger than my left. I just built muscle. And I kicked because I wanted to be somebody. And I kicked 10 extra points in a row, and I made the team. And I was the varsity field goal kicker. We went undefeated. And in the championship, county championship, we were losing Clarkstown North by 2 points. I didn't kick a field goal the whole year because Danny Munoz, our quarterback, always put in the end zone. I just kick extra points. Didn't kick a field goal the whole season. Last game of the season, we played Clarkstown North. They're winning by 2. And with 37 seconds left of the game, we had the ball. And Danny Munoz had to either do a 37-yard wideout to win the game or put me in for a 37-yard field goal. And I was just praying and yelling, put Munoz in. You're not going to put the kicker in. And the stadium was packed. It was undefeated season. Both teams were undefeated. And my parents were there. My grandparents were there. Coach Bob Valtiti, he calls in the kicking crew. And my heart was just pounding. I couldn't even walk out in the field. I was peeing my pants. My legs were shaking. And what does the other coach do? Calls timeout. It's called icing the kicker. So now I had 3 more minutes to think about how I'm going to lose this game. And Coach Bob Valtiti, who passed away this year of cancer, he walks out to the field. He was a big man. And he just spoke so calmly. And he said to me, I didn't put you on this team kick winning field goals. Put you on this team because I believe in you. You were a leader. And whether you make this field goal or not, I want you to know how much I love you. But I really want you to make this damn field goal. And he grabs my mask and he pulls me in and he puts his face right in my face. And he says to me, I believe in you. And I never had a coach ever tell me that, or a teacher. I was just a resource room kid. We put it through the uprights and we won the game. And it was the start of my life, October 11, 1986.
Wow.
I know that game. Got carried off the field. We went to Friendly's restaurant after the game, and we never went there. We didn't have much money. So going to Friendly's was a big deal, like a diner. When I walked in the restaurant, it was packed with people from the game. And when I walked in, everyone gave me a standing ovation. I never got a standing ovation. They don't do standing ovations in the resource room. And I just felt like somebody. And then the manager of the restaurant walks up to my parents right in front of me and says, your kid's a hero. And here's a booth we saved for you. And your kid can have all the ice cream he wants to eat tonight on the house. And I ate a lot of ice cream that night, Matthew. It was just the best day. Kissed my first girl that night too. It was a great day. Yeah. Someone believed me, man. And that's what I want to do with others the rest of my life, is believe in people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how old were you that day?
I was 17.
17?
Yeah.
You graduate high school. You go off to college.
I didn't go to college. I couldn't get in.
So what'd you do?
This international global youth leadership organization called Up With People
Okay.
came to my high school.
Yep.
And I shouldn't say I didn't get into college. I got into college. They weren't colleges that you could actually put letters on the jersey, be proud of, And Up With People came to my town, and it just changed my life. There was, this Up With People show. There were blacks, whites, Jews, Christians, communist, capitalist, young people singing rock and roll music about building bridges and love. And this is what the world needs, is people that are different, forming bonds. So after the show, I just walked right up to the stage and, what kind of GPA? What kind of SAT score? How to get Up With People? I had a 2.0. And they said, we don't look at grades. We look at people's hearts. We want to find people that want to love and serve people. Sign me up. So instead of going to Springfield College, I joined Up With People, and it changed my life. And traveled all over the world. Went to 85 countries, 84 countries. Lived in thousands of host families, and went there when I was 17. Went there, and then I went to college and came back and really spent my career. And then when I was 30 years old, I became the CEO and president of Up With People.
Yeah.
Ran it for 5 years. Just changed my life. Taught me how to love all people. All people.
So how did you get into doing what you're doing now?
Yeah, that's Ken Blanchard and
Okay.
Steve Farber and these great speakers that Steve was on the board of Other People, a speaker, author, wrote The Radical Leap, Radical Edge. And then Ken Blanchard, we hired him to come do a benefit fundraiser for Other People. We had this thing called Celebration of Peace. We had Colin Powell one year, and we had Ken Blanchard one year. And so I picked up Ken and got to know his heart and played golf with him and really spent time with him. And then that night we had our big fundraiser for Other People. And Ken was our keynote speaker, but I was the president, and my job was to share the vision for Other People to the 1,000 donors in the room. And I shared my heart and told stories, and shared my heart and told stories. And when I drove Ken to the airport next day, he looked at me and he said, Tommy, I've never seen anyone move an audience like you. Have you ever thought about writing a book? I said, Ken, I don't think I've ever read a book before, let alone written a book. He says, oh, you got ghostwriters for that. You got a heart. You got a story. You should think about doing this. And he hands me an envelope and says, don't open this until you get home. And I went home. It was a check for $25,000 made out to Tommy Spaulding, not to Up With People. CEO of Up With People. It was made out to me. And says, you're going to need this for a website. I already called my agent in New York. And Steve Farber helped me with more connections. Before you know it, I met Michael Palgon, my agent, blah, blah, and I had a book deal. And when I went to pay back the $25,000 years later, Ken didn't take it. He said, give it away. That guy's the real deal.
He's great.
The real deal.
Leaving Up with People, what was that like? You'd been doing it for so long, so committed to it. What was it like when you left?
Well, it's interesting you asked that, Matthew, because I've been telling the story for years. And it's a true story, but I never told the full truth because I wanted to protect the founder. But I really prayed about it. I thought about it. And the founder's now 98 years old. He's still alive. And I wanted to respect him. But I wrote the story, the real answer to that question in my new book. And he's probably going to be still alive when it comes out next week. And I'm just praying it doesn't break his heart. But I really owe my life to him because he founded the greatest mission in the world. I thought up with people and still do. There's nothing more important than bringing Jews and Christians and Muslims and blacks and whites and rich and poor, communist capitalists together, young people, to learn to love each other. That's what the bridging mutual understanding among peoples. I mean, I defended that mission when I was a student, a staff member, CEO, my whole life, 20 years in that organization. I still love it and still think it's the most important organization. And Blanton Belk was larger than life. I mean, he founded the organization, right? Built this worldwide movement. And he was my mentor. And he was my hero. He was the second father. He groomed me. I mean, when he retired, I replaced him. I mean, I was his chosen person to run this organization 45 years later. So I loved him and idolized him. Told me to play golf, told me how to fish, take me down his place in Mexico. My home in Mexico now is because of him, the love for Mexico. He changed my life. And then I became CEO and president. He was the chairman. And then I saw a different side of him. And I just, my mama always said, never say anything bad about anybody. But let's just say he wasn't the leader that I thought he was. He was that way to the masses.
Yeah.
But how he really treated people behind the scenes was something that really broke my heart.
You didn't see that working with him all those years? Only
when I was CEO, and I fully took. And I think if there's been 6 CEOs of other people in this history, I think if you interviewed all of us, we would all say the same thing. But I had so much respect for him. I just kept my mouth shut. But those 4.5 years of being CEO really broke my heart because he wasn't the guy I thought he was.
Yeah.
And I believe the mission's about to die. It's this close to being done. Other people's almost gone.
Really?
And I really believe if he was a true heart-led leader, truly treated people with love and not ego and narcissism, other people would be one of the greatest missions in the world right now still. So I owe my life to Blanton because Mr. Belk, because I'm in the leadership space now, not because I worked for a leader that I wanted to become. I'm in the leadership space now because I worked for a leader that I didn't want to become.
What would you say to someone who has someone in their life who uses sarcasm to hide, who uses sarcasm to avoid intimacy? What advice would you have for that person?
Well, that other person's broken and hiding something and got deep pain. And so I challenge you to go to them and say, I love you unconditionally, and get to know that story. I have someone in my men's forum. I have a men's forum that I love. These guys I love. I got a guy in my forum that love him more than anything. Amazing husband, father. Has sarcasm to hide a lot of it. And I know there's a story behind it, and I'll find out that story. You just got to keep loving them. Yeah, keep loving them. They're beautiful people. They just hiding it. They get to mask.
Yeah.
Everyone hides things. Like my insecurity, I hit it with hard work and just work. I just worked. I hit it. But it's a journey.
Yeah.
I just had a retreat this weekend called the Tommy Spaulding Man of Faith Retreat. Had like 28 guys, CEOs from all over the country, high-level CEOs, come in for the weekend and really learn about how to be a heart-led leader. One of the CEOs, a guy named Jackson McConnell, runs an amazing bank in Georgia, one of the most successful small banks in the country. He's been to a lot of my retreats. He's been to my marriage retreat. His daughters have done my leadership retreat. So he's bought in. He's bought books. I've spoken to his team. So he knows my heart. The last exercise of the weekend was just a couple of days ago. I asked all the guys to write a love letter, to their wives. Because the night before I had surprise love letters. I contacted all their wives. Surprised them with the love letter from their wife. So they got the love letter, got to feel that love, and I wanted them to return it. But Jackson didn't write a love letter to his wife, probably because he's been to my retreat a bunch of times, so he's done it before. But he wrote the love letter to me. I just got this letter on Sunday. Today is Tuesday. So I'm on the plane reading this 3-page handwritten letter. And he basically says to me, Tommy, I bought your books. I've had you speak. You changed my wife's life, my kids' lives, my life. I love you. But do you love yourself? I just watch you and you give and you give. And you're on the road 250 days a year. And you tell this story about the stadium, all these people, of 80,000 people. But I'm concerned about the 4 people, your wife and your children. They'll be sitting right there front and center stage. Do you spend enough time with them?
Yeah.
But he really challenged me. Do you love yourself? I mean, what are you hiding? And I just wept. And this was a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
Because the reality is maybe I don't. Because I had this teacher in high school named Mrs. DeZini. She was my 10th grade typing teacher. And I told her I wanted to go to college and law school and change the world. And she said I was stupid. She literally said those words. You're stupid. And there's not a college in America that'll accept you. And I just spent my life proving to the world that I'm not stupid. And no amount of books or no amount of houses or no amount of money I have in a bank account. And I just go and charge and charge and charge until I got that letter on Sunday. I realized I'm still chasing something that I'll never get. I'm just trying to prove to the world that I'm not stupid. And it's time to stop and give my worth to God.
Yeah.
Only God.
Yeah.
It's just, so my answer to my question, Matthew, is I teach this stuff. I read books about this stuff and I'm learning this stuff. I just learned it on Sunday. And we got to love ourselves to really, truly love other people. And the only one's going to love us unconditionally is Jesus Christ.
You talked about hockey. You talked about football. Do you have a favorite sport?
I'm a baseball guy.
Yeah.
I'm a New Yorker. I love the Yankees. 77 Yankees. And Chris Chambliss, Mickey Rivers, Bucky Dent, Greg Nettles, Thurman Munz before he died in a car crash. Naaman Zilli, Reggie Jackson, Lou Piniella. You got Catfish Hunter on the mound, Brian Goodray, Tommy John, Catfish Hunter. I mean, you grow up with those guys, you just love the sport.
You have memories of going to Yankee Stadium as a kid?
Yeah, I won. We didn't have much money. We went once. My dad, we sat in the cheap seats, and I smelled something there, and my dad said it was burnt popcorn. And I learned later that was marijuana. I never smelled it before. My dad was a great guy. He loved his kids. We just never went. He hated New York City. He hated the Bronx. I mean, he'd have a heart attack driving there, parking. It was just too much. And so I never really went, but I watched my TV all the time.
So what was it like sitting in Yankee Stadium as a kid?
Yeah, it was amazing. Even the seats right up top. It was just to be there. And when Tate was born, I wanted him to be in Yankee Stadium. And they were going to tear it down after they built a new one. And I took him to one of the last games at Yankee Stadium in the back in seats. And I got the same section my dad took me. And he's in a baby Bjorn. But he never grew up liking the Yankees. He's a hockey guy.
Yeah.
He wanted to be like his brother. So he goes to baseball games with me. But we have a hockey family. And my wife, Jill, she loves hockey. Our dog's Gretzky. I mean, we got a hockey family.
Now, did Jill like hockey before?
No. She loves her boys, and she just grew up going to all the boys' games, and she just loves it. But she gets on that TV now and screams and yells. She goes crazy. It's really cool watching my wife fired up for the Avalanche.
Yeah.
We won the Stanley Cup this year.
Yeah.
It was awesome. And yeah, it's pretty cool.
You've been to 85 countries.
4.
Met so many people. Who is the most interesting person you've ever met?
Wow. Well, I got to live in Europe for a few years with other people and lived in Japan for a couple of years. In Australia. Probably that story I told this morning to your team when I was in business school in Australia. I went over to New Zealand to see the country, and one of my mentors introduced me to Rod Dixon, who's an Olympian, a great Olympian, lives there. And he spent some time with me, few days, and I really fell in love with his heart and got to spend time with his family. And, just a guy that won the New York City Marathon, Olympian, just was, one of the most decorated New Zealanders of all time. And he was humble and down to earth and hung out with me. And after my visit, he took me to the train station. I just said, Mr. Dixon, I got a question. I spent the last 3 days with you in your house, your office, your ranch, met your staff, met your office, people, wife, kids, and been in your home, and nowhere to be found are your Olympic medals. Like, I heard you went to like 4 or 5 Olympic games, and I heard you won the 1980 New York City Marathon. Like, where are all your medals? And he said to me, "Oh, Tommy, all that crap is in a shoebox up in the attic, collecting dust where it belongs. Because I'm not gonna be measured on my awards and my medals. I'm gonna be measured on the people I love and serve." And he drops me off. I had no idea that 20 years later I'd be writing leadership books, but I wrote about him. And humility is everything, Matthew. You could be so good at what you do, no matter what you do in life, whether it's hockey or business or the doctor, whatever you do. But if you become arrogant, it's like game over. And in the coaching business, as you are, that's the sad part. There's a lot of arrogant leaders in the world. We need more confident, humble leaders.
Yeah.
So I've decided to dedicate my life to building those types of leaders. And they start at high school, get them young.
Yep.
And then you do your job well and get the high school kids to understand humility. You don't need to coach the CEOs because they've learned it when they were 16.
Yeah.
I guess that's why I'm so passionate about working with youth, because they're formidable. You can teach a kid how to live a life of others.
Yeah, the big decisions of their lives are still ahead of them. I think very often, people will write to me, or I'll meet people, "Oh, I read your book." But very often they've made all of life's big decisions. Some of them have been made poorly, and they're trying to make peace with those poor decisions or unravel parts of those poor decisions or having to live with some of those poor decisions. I think what you do with the young people sets them up to make good decisions, and there's only 5 or 6. You get those 5 or 6 decisions right, and it changes your whole life. So we're going to talk about the work you do with young people in a minute, but before we get into that, you have so much going on in your life. You're writing books, you're speaking, you're doing these retreats, obviously, family. What are you most excited about in your life right now?
Instantly, I go to my career because that's where I spend so much time. I got a new book coming out in 2.5 weeks, and I think it's going to be a game changer. And got a great staff that we're growing our company, and I'm excited about that. But I don't want to answer that question that way. I want to be a better husband. I actually, my dream in life is to become the guy my wife thinks I am. Become the guy. If you look at the back of my book, all those amazing quotes you get, I want to become that guy. It's a journey, right?
What makes you think you're not that guy?
Well, one, I'm hard on myself.
Yes.
I'm real hard on myself.
Yeah.
But some gentleman said something at this mentor retreat last weekend, that our goal in life should allow the people that know us best to love us the most. And that's the greatest litmus test of the world, is if the people that know you the best love you the most. That's most important. And I do think Anthony, Caroline Tate, and Jill for sure love me, and I love them. But my father, Matthew, with all his flaws, sat at that dinner table every night my entire life. I have 0 memories of my dad not being at the table. I missed a lot of dinner tables.
Yeah.
And I could argue that I'm still a great dad, and a
Yes.
great provider. I'm changing the world, and that's all true. But I missed a lot of games, a lot of dinner tables to build this, movement that I'm doing. And I got a great supportive wife and great supportive kids. But I got 2 more years with Caroline at home.
Yeah.
I'm not missing any more games.
Yeah.
I gave her my schedule with my agent. Reroute the plane, buddy. We're stopping in Denver. Caroline's got a JV field hockey game, 5:30. We're going that game.
Yep.
And you should see my schedule back there. I'm doing a speech in LA, and then I'm flying back to Denver, crazy, but I'm not going to miss those games.
Yeah.
I got 2 years, and I want my daughter to marry a strong Christian man. And my role is to make sure that I model that. She's going to marry what I model.
Yeah.
So I've made a lot of mistakes because I put so much eggs in this career. I missed a lot of stuff. And so I am hard on myself, but I can be a better, more present father. And I know I got a lot more in me to be a better husband.
We were together a few months ago in Vienna
Having schnitzel.
on pilgrimage, having schnitzel.
I love
How
schnitzel.
good was the schnitzel? I mean, how good was the schnitzel?
Well, there's not really bad schnitzel.
It's
It's just all good. I remember that lunch. It was a 3-hour lunch. All my lunches with you are 2 or 3 hours. It's impossible not to just dive into our hearts when I talk to you.
It's good for us. But your family was with you.
Yeah.
And I get the sense that they would see what you're describing differently.
Yeah, probably.
You know?
If my wife was right here, she'd say, "Oh, Tommy, you're a great husband. You're a great dad." I'm hard on myself, Matthew.
Yeah.
Probably too hard.
Why do you think that is?
Because I still have a lot to learn about how to love myself, who I am.
Now, let me change the question. If you were coaching someone who is as hard on themselves as you are on yourself, what would you say to that person?
I'd probably bench them until they figured it out, that they're enough.
Yeah.
You know that movie, what's the movie with Hugh Jackman? Help me out there. It was like the dance and singing in America.
Greatest
Showman. Greatest Showman.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that movie. And there's a song on it where the woman that from England comes over and sings the song in the theater. And he's married, but he's impressed with this woman. She sings a song called, I'm Never Enough. And it's my anthem. Like, I'm never enough. I'm never enough. And it just moves me. And it's a sad anthem, by the way. That's probably why I'm a workaholic and, constantly pushing the needle. So there's some positives about being driven. But I think if I was a coach to someone like that, I would say, stop and smell the roses and look at all the people around you that just love you, important people around you. And be happy with who God made you. And just go to bed at night knowing that you're doing good. Well done, my faithful servant. Well done, my faithful servant comes from God. And you're never enough. Never enough. It doesn't come from God.
No, I think that is an anthem that a lot of people have on repeat in their life, either because they, have some sort of broken, dysfunctional relationship early in their life that has injected that false belief into them, or we live in a culture where, marketing executives are constantly reinventing ways to make us feel like we aren't enough, and so that we need different things or experiences. So I think it is not an uncommon thing for people to feel like they're not enough.
Yeah. When you write books, you've written a lot more than me. It's amazing how you write all these books, and then the last days before the book is due to the publisher, God just gives you these stories, So I was trying to figure out how to wrap up the gift of influence, and I was thinking about this dinner that I went to, and I went to this dinner party with new couples that some of them wanted to connect all of us. I sat next to this woman, and her job was she was a hospice nurse, and I said, "Wow, that's an amazing job." My grandfather died in hospice, and I never helped anyone get to heaven. That was the first time I saw someone die with my grandfather. What's it like? She I've been a hospice nurse for almost 40 years, 36 years. So I've helped, thousands of people get to heaven. Well, she just had me at that. And I'm like, what was that like? She said, well, a lot of sadness because a lot of these people are alone. Yeah. A lot of them just don't have the loved ones that are there. And it just broke my heart. But she said, but they all say the same thing. Every one of them. Doesn't care what religion, or how much money they have or don't have, or color of skin, they have family there or not there. they're all asking the same 3 questions. Well, what are those 3 questions? Was I loved? Did I love back? Did I make a contribution? Was I loved? Did I love back? Did I make a contribution? That's what people were saying on their deathbeds. So I wrapped up the gift of infants saying, now that we know, after a woman that helped thousands of people get to heaven, and this is what they're all saying, those are the questions that we asked.
Yeah.
Not how many books did you sell? What was your GPA? What was SAT score? Where'd you go to college? How much money did you make? Was I loved? Did I love back? And did I make a contribution?
How would you describe yourself to someone who didn't know you?
I love. I want to be real and authentic, and I'm vulnerable, transparent. There's a goofy side of me. When the kids were really young, I used to put my underwear on my head and run around the house naked. And it's called Naked Man. Naked Man! And then the kids got a little older and I couldn't do that anymore. But like the kids miss Naked Man. Like they used to love it. They'd be watching a movie and I'd just like streak, like fun. Then my wife said I'd probably better stop doing that. And my daughter's 10. She probably don't figure her out. But I'm goofy. There's a side of me that's got, a little wit. And I need more of that guy.
Yeah.
In our business, you get in this world where people are reading your stuff. Now you're writing a blog and millions of people are reading your stuff and you feel more responsible and you have to be a little more mature and you can't be as more goofy. But I got a men's forum group and I got a small group of friends. There's a lot of, I don't have a lot of noodles in my strainer anymore. It's just a handful of people that I could totally be myself with. And I love those guys.
Yeah.
And I love those girls because I could totally be myself and I'm goofy, funny, and prankster, and that's the side of me that I miss. We all take ourselves a little too seriously, and I'm probably guilty of that sometimes.
You spoke earlier about working with young people, and for a long time now you've been doing the Global Youth Leadership Academy.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Yeah. Well, I remember when I was in high school. And I went to my first leadership camp when I was 15, and it changed my life. I didn't get my value from my grades or AP classes or SAT scores or ATC scores or all these schools accepted. That's not where I got my value. I got it outside the classroom. And I think a lot of high school kids are going through that. Maybe they have the grades, but they don't get their value at home, or maybe they get their value in the athletic field. But high school kids are just trying to find out who they are.
Yeah.
And so when I left Up With People, I wanted to start my own movement. So I started the National Leadership Academy 23 years ago. And it's still going on. It's basically a youth program where we have hundreds of high school kids that come to Denver for 5 days and they learn about love and servant leadership. And we have, half of them are Black, half of them are white, Jews, Christians, public school kids, private school kids. And by the end of it, 23 years later, we did every June. By the end of it, that Sunday when you pick them up, you got to peel these kids off each other. And then 20 years ago, we started the Global Youth Leadership Academy, take 40 kids to Europe every year. We just took 40 kids to Greece last month, not 2 months ago. And it's the best thing I've ever done, Matthew, because when you coach, you speak, or you write, you're having change. But when you're doing the Global Youth Leadership Academy, you get 40 high school kids that are every color skin, every religion, every background. Half our kids are full scholarship kids.
Yes.
Inner city kids that never been on an airplane before.
Yeah.
And they come together with kids like our kids and drop them off on Monday. And then the following Monday, when they fly home, they're like different. Like you actually see change. And then get phone calls from parents like, what the hell? What happened over there? My kid's like doing the dishes and asking me questions and thanking me for all the hard work it was being being a mother, and like, what are you doing? And I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just powerful. So one day I won't write books or speak. I will always work with high school kids. They're the future. And you get a high school kid fired up about making a difference in the world.
Yeah.
And loving all people. I'm a Catholic, love my faith. But my God, my Jesus, wants me to love all people, every color skin, every religion, every sexual orientation, everybody. And not just to say you love them, but actually invite them to your table, invite them into your lives, and actually befriend them. That is what God wants. Not you're going to heaven, you're not, or I'm a Christian, you're not. Like, no, we are called to love and serve all people. Even though I don't say that because NLA and GYLA are, it's a non-Christian. But they feel it.
Yeah.
And by the end of at GYLA, I'll show you videos or pictures. These guys are loving each other, hugging each other. Inner city kids never met an outer city kid. And you teach them that. They have the rest of their life to go out there and become ambassadors of love. It's pretty cool.
Now, in Greece this year, your daughter was there for the first time, yeah?
This was crazy, Matthew.
What was that like?
Oh, first of all, it was amazing because my daughter, Caroline, is a pretty amazing person. And I think she struggled in her 17 years because she's got this older brother, Anthony, who is literally King Kong, ripped, strong, captain of the hockey team, goes to West Point. He's a sharp guy and looking at that. Then you got Tate, who is, one of the best 14-year-old hockey players in the country and got an incredible gift. And so she sees that her brothers have this hockey and what's her thing? But she sings, she dances, she's got great grades. She's in the school musical, she's got the lead, all that. But she loves Jesus. I mean, she's just got this, she goes to Bible camp and just loves her faith. She's amazing. But she's hard on me. I got 2 boys, easy peasy. Daughter, one day on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, you knock on the door. Come on in, Daddy. How's my day? Thursdays and Fridays, walking. Get out! I mean, and you just don't know what day of the week you are, and that's just hormones and being a dad of a 16-year-old, a 17-year-old. But she knew about GYLA, and she heard me talk about it. But I've made a very conscious decision that when I come home, I'm just Tommy. I'm Dad. I'm not Tommy Spaulding. I don't think my kids have read my book. I don't ever talk about my blogs or what I do. I just kind of park my car, come in, and I just be a dad. She went to the program. And at the end of the week, she saw the impact. I mean, the crowd, just the power. And she walked up to me and she said, "You're a great dad. You changed a lot of lives. You changed a lot of lives. And you changed mine this week." That was pretty special. And this GYLA was so cool because I had my daughter and then my daughter's best friend, Quinn. Remember Up With People?
Yep.
My student year, when I was 17, I traveled all over the world with 120, amazing kids. That's my cast year. You never forget that. That's like the 1980s, 1977 Yankees, that team, make your friends forever. Well, those 120 people I still keep in touch with. 5 of those castmates had their kids in that program.
Wow.
Not 1, 5. Then my high school best friend, Corey Torr, his son. My college best friend, Gary Dudley, his daughter. I mean, my best friend my whole life, Andy Newland, right? His daughter, right? It was just like the greatest hits of people. And then these inner city kids in Memphis and Salt Lake and just everywhere. It was just the most amazing thing. Best group I've ever had. And it was just life-changing.
How do you decide who gets a scholarship?
Well, we're a small organization, so I just go to my friends in Memphis and friends, in cities and say, partner with the church, partner with Boys and Girls Club, and they'll help identify the right person, and then that person funds it. But we have a great partnership at Boys and Girls Club. There's 6,000, 8,000 kids in Boys and Girls Club, and we say, who's the Boys and Girls Club Kid of the Year? The kid that's going to college, the kid that has all the smarts and the hearts, but just doesn't have the funds and the parental support, and we give them that scholarship.
Okay.
So these kids are kids. They all want to learn and grow, but some are rich or some are poor. I mean, my National Leadership Academy, every year we have kids that get dropped off on their parents' plane, and then we have kids that we literally go to the rescue mission, to the homeless shelter, and pick up the other high school kids. That's what's so beautiful about it. You bring rich and poor, gay and straight, Jews, Christian, Muslim, and you bring them together and you do community service and you speak from your heart. You bring these speakers and zip lining and trust building. And they just realize that tears are the same color. Blood's the same color.
Yeah.
We're all human. We are all under one God. And we charge them up to be, soldiers. I'm building an army, Matthew, of soldiers that want to love and serve all people. We got enough divisiveness in our world. We need more soldiers of love. That's my calling.
What have the young people taught you?
One thing is there's no bullshit with high school kids. They can smell fraud a million miles away. When you coach CEOs, that's not the case. You can but high school kids, they smell bullshit. And so they just demand authenticity, right? Which I love.
Yeah.
So our staff and I, when we lead these kids, we're all in. We rolled up and we're sharing and we're crying and we're leading. They also forgive easy. They have something going wrong. Like a lot of these kids, they're broken families, broken homes, broken dreams and been let down and, they can get back up. I think when you get older, you get hurt and burned. We don't get back up as easy. They have energy too. I love their energy. I get energy off of that.
Sure.
And they love to learn.
Yeah.
They're just sponges. And sometimes I get tired of learning because I'm exhausted and I want to just go home and watch my Yankees on TV. And they just inspire me to learn and grow. Yeah. If I never, ever wrote a book or worked with corporate America and all I did was work with high school kids the rest of my life, I would be happy. I just haven't figured out that doesn't really pay the bills. And I haven't figured out how to do that. So that's kind of my nonprofit. And that's not where I make money. I make money on the business side.
Yeah.
You have to do one to do the others,
Yeah.
and I'm okay with that. But one day it's going to be all kids.
You're drawing these young people from very different backgrounds, some very, very privileged, some had astoundingly difficult lives, very early on. In what way are their issues the same?
They all have issues.
Yeah.
They all have anxiety. They all have fears. And I think a lot of times we look at the inner city people as, the inner city people, they have their challenges and it's the more time you spend together, we all have different issues. We all have family issues. We all have self-confidence issues. We're all kind of one. And they love easily.
Yeah.
They take off the mask right away. And the kids are teaching the break dancing and the dancing, the moves and the country music, and everyone's just kind of sharing their cultures. And I mean, there's nothing better than really pouring into kids and teaching them how to love and serve, challenging them to be the next generation of leaders.
Yeah.
In my humble opinion, Matthew, the next generation of leaders are humble, they're genuine, they're authentic, they put others first, and they love and they serve all people. That's the generation that I want to. You're not going to find that in DC. You're not going to find that in most churches, most temples, most synagogues. We live in a divided world.
Yeah.
I want to share the other message, a non-political, non-religious message of love.
Yeah.
By the way, corporate America needs the same message.
Well, people are people. It doesn't matter if they're at work or at home, right? The needs don't essentially change. You have a new book, and I want to talk about that, but let's walk people through how we got there. Your first book was It's Not Just Who You Know. What's that about? 15
years ago, first book. But I actually am most proud about that one. That's very autobiographical, how you ever say that word.
You got it.
Yeah, I got it. It's a lot of my story, but basically what that book's about is relationships. How do you build? Why we should build authentic, genuine relationships. And we live in the world with such transaction. I do this for you, you do this for me. I help you, you help me. I don't believe in that world.
Yeah.
To have relationships where you just give and serve and love and expect nothing. So really, the book's kind of measured like the 5 floors of relationships that we all have. And challenging the reader that every relationship you have, whether it's personal or professional, lives on 5 floors. The first floor is transactional. Hey, Matthew, how you doing? You say good, and I say I'm good, and it's just kind of that transactional. You could be having a crappy day, or I could be having one, but it's just transactional. Here's my deposit, here's my latte, here's my money. It's transactional. Bye. It's first floor. We have them every day, hundreds of them. Right? Checked out of the hotel. I'm gonna go on the airplane, the taxi driver, or the Uber driver. You have them all the time. Transactionals. Second floor relationship is what I call NSW relationships, which is news, sports, weather. How are the Reds doing tonight? How are the Reds doing in Cincinnati? How's the weather? What's going on? Like news, sports, weather. It's small talk.
Yep.
And small talk's important. You need to have that. Where'd you go to school? Where are you from? What's the weather? But some people never move beyond that. They have relationships with their customers or clients or family members. That's all small talk.
Yep.
You got to move to at least a third floor. We're a little bit more vulnerable, more open. And you ask questions that are meaningful and you get to know someone's story. You move to a fourth floor. Not only you vulnerable, but the other person becomes vulnerable as well. And then you really start sharing, love and concern, and you want nothing from them. Right. And then you move to a fifth floor. And that's when you have relationships that are just pure love. And all you want to do is help the other person be successful. And pure authenticity and vulnerability and truth. And those are lifelong customers or lifelong employees or lifelong spouses that stay with you because it's real and authentic. And I wanted to write a book to really challenge people to go deep and get real, that don't live a transactional life. And it's not just who you know. It's not just who you know. You got to know people in life. You got to network.
Yeah.
I have this whole chapter in my book about networking. That's the evil empire. Networking. I hate that word. Remove the word networking, because networking, in my humble opinion, is when you meet people to help you. Networking means to meet people to help yourself. So you should have a net giving mind where you're meeting people to help them.
Yeah.
I'm not a networker. I humbly speaking, I know very few people on the planet that know more human beings than I do. I believe I'm probably the most networked humans in the world. It's my gift. I don't network. I net give. I meet people. How can I help you? How can I serve you? And you keep doing that as a life, and all of a sudden, it just comes back in tenfold.
Yeah.
I mean, just this morning, I had breakfast with 2 of your amazing staff. Got to hear their story. We could have easily had a transactional, how the eggs, that looks healthy. That looks good. One person had pancakes. That made me envious because my wife told me no more pancakes. And so we could have had that conversation, but we were crying.
Yeah.
We were sharing. It was beautiful. We were straight to the fourth floor. That's real. That's a choice. That's intentionality.
Yeah.
I wanted to write a book to challenge people. We got enough fake people in the world, takers in the world. We need more givers. And the best relationships that last are the ones that give. That's the first book. I love that book.
Second book is Heart-Led Leader.
Yeah.
What is a heart-led leader?
Someone that wakes up every day and puts others before themselves. Someone that's truly a servant leader. Someone that truly is putting others before themselves, which is a really hard thing to do.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. If you think you're a heart-led leader, you're probably not. And when I wrote The Heart-Led Leader, I had a list of like 100 amazing leaders like in the world. Like the Frank DeAngelis and the Cheryls and like all the people you read about, these amazing heart-led leaders, Jody Rowland, and, just Jimmy Blanchard, like these amazing leaders that I know. And I called them all, said, I want to write about you. By golly, Matthew, it was like all 100 people all over the world that don't know each other. It was almost like they had a conference call before and said, when Spaulding calls you, let's all tell him the same answer. You know what they all said? I said, I want to write about you. You're the greatest heart-led leader. Like you're a servant leader. I want to write your story. And they all declined. And they said the same thing. You should have heard how I spoke to my wife this morning. You sure heard how I kicked one of my employees out of the office the other day. You got the wrong guy.
Yep.
You got the wrong gal. I got a long way to go. So what I realized, the greatest heart-led leaders that I know, If you think that you're a hard-led leader, you're probably not. That hard-led leader is not a destination. It's a journey.
Yeah.
Every day you got to work. People think because I wrote the book, I am one. Oh my Lord, I got so much work to do.
Yeah.
Hard-led leadership. That's what that book's about. Really leading with love. Really living a life where you put your customers, your clients, your employees, your family truly, authentically first. And what that does for results is astounding.
Yeah. You do a lot of work with CEOs, leaders of all sorts. A leader comes to you and says, Tommy, I want to be a heart-led leader. What do I do? Where do I start? What would your advice to that leader be?
Well, first of all, if someone does that, that's a beautiful thing, because there's a guy that wants to, or a gal that wants to become a heart-led leader. A lot of times I'm hired, it's the chairman of the company saying, we're a Fortune 100 company. My CEO is a narcissist, doesn't think he needs help or she needs help.
Yeah.
Can you come in? That's most of my invitation.
Yes.
But what I do first is I just kind of do an audit, right? I kind of ask that CEO, how do you think your peers, your direct reports, your employees think of you? And they would tell me something. And then I would talk to his direct or her direct reports and her employees, and I ask how they feeling. And 9 times out of 10, there's a disconnect there, right? That usually the leader thinks they're here, but they're not really here.
Yeah.
So it's this recognition that, you really got to work on your heart. But it's such a beautiful place to be in that coaching world now, because, 100 years ago, leading by fear, command and control. A leader knows all the answers. A leader's never wrong, right? You fear the leader. I mean, that was it.
Yeah.
All leaders. And in a sense, when I was talking about Blanton Belk before, of people, he was that kind of leader, right? But leading an organization today, you will not go far at all.
No.
And there are leaders that still lead this way.
No question.
And you have to lead with humility and with love and authenticity and vulnerability. And you got to coach that stuff. One of the things I love about hockey, back to hockey, is it's not a sport that you got to kick people off teams. It's not a sport that you have to tell someone you're not good enough to make the team. Like Anthony, when he graduated high school, he wanted to play D1 hockey. He's good. So he went to Canada. You play in this league called juniors. These are the best. Anthony played with them, got traded, played with them. And he knew. He calls me Tommy. He's my stepson. I'm good, but I'm not good enough to play D1. I know where my place is. I'm going to play club at West Point. Anthony, no, you're going to work hard. I want you can make D1. I'm trying to Tommy, I know where it's interesting. You just know. They know when the game's over. And I wish there were more leaders like that.
Yeah.
That just knew, I need to learn this stuff.
Yeah.
I need a different leadership philosophy. This command and control, this fear, this manipulation is not working anymore. Tommy, come in and program my heart. Teach me how to lead this way. And when you have that kind of client, it's just fun, because they really want to grow and learn. But most of my clients are the ones that have broken marriages, broken organizations, and they need me to come in to heal. And usually when you have a broken family, you got a broken company, right? Usually. And so try to teach grown men and grown women how to love differently has been a challenge, but I really love it. I'm really good at it. And I just love doing it, because you can change companies.
Yeah.
You change someone's heart. You've just changed an organization, and yet you change the family, and you change the marriage. It's really cool work. Yeah.
Your new book, The Gift of Influence, your publisher sent me an advance copy, so I had a chance to read it. Most people do not think of themselves as influential. What would you say to those people?
You are. That's the whole book. Everyone's a gift. Everybody can have influence.
Yeah.
The first thing we got to do is we got to hijack the word back.
Yes.
Influencer, you actually look up in the dictionary.
Yeah.
How many hits you have, social media, how many likes you have,
Yep.
how much crap can you sell on the internet. I mean, I don't know the Kardashians, but they're always the target. But like internet's like that. You want to be selling stuff, and that's not what an influencer is. An influencer is when you change someone's life through loving them and serving them, and making a contribution to their heart. That's not how many likes you have. We tried so hard, Jill and I. We never gave our kids phones until they went to high school. They were the only kids in the whole 8th grade that had a phone. We have no technology, no video games. We really tried hard to hide them from that. But now Caroline's on TikTok. Now Tate's on Instagram. It's how the kids communicate on the skates team. And I just see it just really eating at them.
Yeah.
It's the devil in the pocket. And I know technology is so important and it's so good. I can travel the world with my family, be on vacation, check in with work. I get the positives. But I think, Matthew, 10, 20, 30, 40 years, we're going to see a huge void in the world with socialization and self-confidence, just with social media. It's awful.
Yeah, I mean, there's some real mega themes, and
Yeah.
none of them seem to be good when it comes to the fruit of those things.
Yeah.
Someone reads your new book, The Gift of Influence. They put it down. What do you want them to be thinking and feeling once they finish reading the book?
I'm a storyteller, and I wanted to write a book that would really move people. And I have a friend, I won't mention his name, but he's a hard ass, a CEO, very successful, military, Stanford, military, hard ass. He just cried through the whole book. That's what I wanted.
Yeah.
Because when you get in their heart and you get them open up about influence, so the stories, just one after the other, right hook, left hook, jab, 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 I mean, just the whole way through. And so at the end, I want people to put the book down and say, I want to make a significant influence on the lives of others. I want to influence my spouse, my children, but my neighbors, people at work. I want to make a difference.
Yeah. How did writing this book change you?
Well, it's impossible not to be changed when you write a book. A few years ago, John Gordon, our friend, was in Denver doing a speech for my nonprofit. And he just randomly said in his speech that the average human being influences 80,000 people in your life. He just kind of said in his talk. And John, he just talks like no slides. I love that guy.
Yeah.
It's genius. He says that, and it just hit me like the average human being influences 80,000 people in their life. And then so I did the research. I started becoming obsessed with it, and sure that research is correct. And they said the average person lives to 77 years old. And if you take 77 years old and divide it by 365 days a year, that's 2.8 people a day. So this research believes that every day we wake up, we meet 3 new people, 2.8 new people a day. I mean, just think of your day today. When you checked out here in this plane, this coffee shop, this bank, this new employee, if you take 2.8 people a day times 365 days of the year, times 77 years, which is the average life expectancy of a human in the world, you get exactly 80,000. Oh, I just became obsessed with that. Like 80,000, that's a big number.
Yeah.
What if at the end of our life, we actually got to meet these people? We don't think about that. We just think about transactions and people, but at the end of our life, what if every single person we've ever met in our life, all 3 people, actually 2.8 people, times 365 days, times 77 years, all 80,000, what if we got to meet them and say goodbye to them and talk to them? Would we live differently? Would we lead differently? Would we treat people differently? I started thinking about that. You know how it is when you write a book, you're obsessed about it. Where would they fit? Would they fit in stadiums? How many stadiums in America? Turns out there's over 30 stadiums in America that have 80,000 seats. And so I started thinking, what if at the end of our lives, before we go home to our maker, and we all just walk on that 50-yard line of that stadium.
Yeah.
And every single person that we've met in our life, all 2.8 people a day since we were kindergartners all the way up to, our last breath, all 80,000 people are in that stadium. And we just walk in that stadium, stand that 50-yard line, and everyone is there saying goodbye. And I I have a couple questions. What's the sound of that stadium? You know, what's the sound of it? Are they just cheering and chanting your name? Matthew changed my life. Like, are they just clapping because you made an influence on them? You stopped to hear their story. You've stopped to listen to them. You helped them. You've loved them. You've served them. Or are they booing? You just rolled over people most of your life.
Yeah.
Or is it worse? Is it silent? Like you've been on your phone the whole life and just looking down. And so I wrote this book. It was originally called 80,000. We changed it to The Gift of Influence for lots of reasons, but I want people to think about their stadium.
Yeah.
I want people to be very intentional when they wake up every day, the influence that they have, that 2.8 new people are coming in their life. And some stadiums aren't going to be 80,000. Some are going to be 8 million, 800 million. We're going to need a lot of stadiums for you, Matthew, right? Which is awesome. But the average person is going to have 80,000 people. And I want people to close my book and say, I'm filling my stadium with people that I've changed their life.
You talked a lot about the transactional nature of relationships or even encounters with people in our culture. In the book, you talk about showing up meaningfully for people. What does it mean to show up meaningfully for people?
We have this transactional tendency when people are in pain, when people are hurting, to say, Matthew, I'm so sorry that your son's going through this. If you need anything, you let me know.
Yeah.
That is bullshit. I probably have to edit that out. Sorry. Bullshit. I'll say it again. If there's anything I can do for you, going through a divorce, kids on drugs, just lost your spouse.
Yeah.
Right? Cancer.
Yeah.
Right? This stuff happens all the time. If there's anything I can do for you, you let me know.
Yeah.
We say that all the time, and that's a cop-out. What you're really saying is, I care about you, but I'm so busy. So I'm just going to say something that makes you feel that I care. But the reality is, I hope to God you don't call me up and ask for something. Yeah. And how many times do you actually call someone up and say, remember you said if I need anything? Very rarely.
No, because you're putting the burden on the other person to ask you to do something for them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So my friends are in pain. What time can I come over? I know you're busy. I'm coming over. I want to pray with you. Jill's got a meal for you. I want to do this for you. I got this great book I want to get to you about healing, whatever that story is.
Yep.
And you just say, here's what I'm doing for you. Call up. I'm sorry you're in pain. I'm going to be there for you. I have a good friend. His name is Scott Wetzel. And I want to tell this story right, but it changed my life. He's got boys, and he's a great guy. He's a banker in town, great guy. And he in Charlotte raised these kids. And his high school student, maybe 5-6 years ago, was a victim of cyberbullying.
Yeah.
He got really bullied. And these kids were awful. You're such a wuss. You can't even jump off a bridge, right? And they dared him to go on the bridge and jump, and they were on the bottom of it. Come on, you wuss. You can't even jump off that bridge. You can't even kill yourself, right? What do you think that kid did? He jumped.
Wow.
Gone. Teddy. And when I talked to my friend years later, he said to me, I know my friends cared. I know that people were saddened for me. But not a lot of people really came, because I think, like, what do you say to someone, your son just jumped off the bridge? But you, Tommy, man, you mailed me Steve Otterman's book on healing. You called all the time. You showed up. Like, man, when people have pain, you run towards them. You run right in their life, and you run alongside of them. I think our intentions are pure, but I think we get scared. And we don't know what our place is. And, maybe, someone else is bringing a meal. But I told you this last night. I told you the whole Brooke Shields story.
Yeah.
At the ball game. Brooke Shields didn't go to her senior prom in high school. She was on the cover of Teen Magazine, People Magazine. She was the most beautiful 6-year-old girl in the world. She just did Blue Lagoon. She was literally the biggest star. And she was a high school student in New Jersey. And no one asked her to the prom. That's why she didn't go. because everyone assumed Brooke Shields got a date because she's beautiful. No one, you know what? If I knew she needed a date, I would have asked her. You can't assume that someone's taking the meal, someone's sending the book, someone's praying, someone's stopping by. When people have pain, intentional, they have meaningful effort to change people's lives by showing up.
Yeah.
Showing up, Matthew.
Yeah.
We're really good about saying what we want to do. You need anything, let me know. That ain't showing up. The people in my stadium, they're going to be clapping hard because they showed up, and they showed up for me.
Yeah.
I got a friend, Marshall. He was Marshall Patton. He was the GM at the Brown Palace. You've stayed there. It's a fancy hotel in Denver. And he was there forever. Like, he was the Brown Palace. He retired, and he called me up one time and said, "Man, I got cancer. I got colon cancer, and I got operation." And Pam and I, we're just scared. We don't have kids. Like, this is scary for me. When's your surgery? He said some date. Put in the back of my mind. He didn't know this, but I flew down there that morning of surgery. I called Pam up and I said, "Can I come up?" And she's like, "Tommy, please come up." When he wheeled out of that surgery, he finally woke up. There was Pam and there was me at his bedside. He woke up. He just cried. I rubbed his feet, loved him, got in a plane, had to go somewhere else. I was busy, as we all are.
Yeah.
And like a year later, he takes his motorcycle and he drives it, from Scottsdale. He's retired all the way to Denver. And he liked the trip, but he finally got to my house. He gets off there, he gets in the saddle, he pulls out this gorgeous bottle of bourbon, like a really, really rare bottle. And he said, I wanted to hand deliver this to you. And I wanted to drive because I've never had anyone show up for me like that. When I had cancer, when I was there at the operating room, you were there. And I can't even open that bottle up. It sits in my bar. I'm a tequila guy now, but I just look at that bottle, and that's that sacrifice. Show up to people. Right? When people are going through something, get on a plane, show up.
So powerful. Handful of short questions to finish.
Sure.
If you could host a dinner party with anybody from history, who would you invite?
Oh, Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah.
Oh, hands down. I know I'm supposed to say Jesus, but he'd be second. I love Abe Lincoln. I love him because he understood what I believe. Love all people.
Yeah.
He saw their slavery. People are against it. He saw unionization. He saw colonization. He saw a divided country. He saw differences, the same we have in our country today.
Yep.
And he knew, united we stand, that we had to be together. And he had the guts to do that. That's number one. Number two is the guy failed at everything. Lost state legislature, left state senate. He failed printer, failed every business, everything he's ever done, he failed at. And then he became president, didn't give up. He saved our nation. He saved our nation.
Destiny.
Yeah, he saved everything. Yeah.
What about if you could be physically present for one moment in Jesus's life, which moment would you pick?
I want to watch him on his knees, washing the feet of his disciples. Because that to me is the most moving, meaningful thing. I want to be there. What I want to watch is I want to see the faces of those apostles. Yeah. I want to see what they're like, the shock, like, oh my God, Jesus is on his knees washing my feet. How uncomfortable that is. Because I want to burn that memory in my heart, because that's what I want to do every day.
Yeah.
Metaphorically.
Yeah.
As I want to wash the feet of every human being that comes across. I want to wash their feet.
All right, last two.
Yeah.
One very worldly, one very otherworldly. What's your favorite material possession?
My favorite material possession. Well, I don't have it yet. But my dad, who's one of my heroes, has this music box that when I was a kid, my grandmother had in the attic. That's like a couple 100 years old. It's old. It's one of those big music boxes that you crank. And when I was a boy, my parents didn't have a lot of money, but my dad got this from his mother, and we got in the car and drove all the way up to Vermont. that was a big trip for us with the music box to take to this music box guy that can clean it because the drums were broken and it was the brass got all, like stained and, blackened and it was old. And I think they paid like a couple $1,000 is a lot of money.
Yep.
A lot of money for my parents.
Yep.
But they paid money to fix this thing up and you'd crank it and it would just play and the drums would go and all that. My dad has then. He had a pacemaker put in yesterday. He's getting old. And I want that music box, not because of the value of it.
Sure.
But I want it because it reminds me of my dad.
Yeah.
And the influence he had on me. And when those bells go off and the drums go, I just know all the games that he went, all the times he loved me unconditionally. When I was really down on myself in school, I had a dad and a mom that said, I believe in you and I love you. And, don't measure yourself on your poor grades.
Yeah.
Don't measure yourself on a GPA, SAT score. Measure yourself on the lives that you touch. And my dad, every day, Matthew, when I come home from school, he never asked, how was practice? How was your grades? Because he knew that was never a good answer. What he would say is, how many people did you serve today? How many people did you bless? Whose lives did you change? Picture as a kid hearing that. And so I'm now an adult and I got kids that are not grown. And I got to tell you, we hired a college counselor for Caroline to help her get into college. And she had to give me her transcript because when I was talking to the college counselor, I had to go over it. And it's the first time in my adult life I've ever seen any of my kids' transcripts. I know Anthony got a 4.0. You need that kid in West Point.
Yep.
I knew my Caroline had a great grade. It was actually a 4.5, straight A's. I've never been to a parent-teacher meeting. I've never asked to see my kids' grades. I don't have any idea what the kind of grades they have. Because my kids don't know. I don't want to know.
Right.
All I want to know is, the same 3 questions that the lady, the hospice first.
Yes.
Did I love? Did I love back? Did I make a contribution? That's what I care.
Yeah.
Now, what your grades are, what line are you in the team, or, how much money you make. We ask all the wrong questions. And I want us to start asking the right questions.
That's profound. It's great to be with you. Tommy Spaulding, hope you'll come back and be with us again.
Love you, brother.
God bless you. Love you too.